Hey, how you doing, guys? DJ AJ101 here, and I'm here with an interesting little article for you that I was going to record last night, but didn't have enough time, got too tired, went to sleep, went to work, and here I'm back with you for it today, Tuesday, which is cool. But anyways, as you guys can see right here, this article, US Cellular, the iPhone isn't cutting edge enough to currently consider. Now, why am I bringing this up? And you're probably, a lot of you are saying, what in the world is a US Cellular? Well, I will say this right here. I do live in the Midwest. I live in northeast Wisconsin. Wisconsin is pretty big on US Cellular. US Cellular is a regional carrier, and you may have heard of them. And you may have heard of them because of the article that was probably, I think it was posted almost a month ago, that they'd actually turned down the iPhone when Apple had offered it to them. But now I found another article, and it kind of continues on with what was said in the last article. I don't think I covered that one, but basically what they said is, right now it just isn't a good fit. We couldn't get it down to the price point that we wanted, stuff around that area, and pretty much what US Cellular is making a point of, and let me just put it this way: I don't really have any love or hate toward any carrier in particular. I mean, they all do a good job depending on where you live. You got to consider the best carrier for your region. Because one market may not be the best for this market, may not be the best for this carrier or that carrier. However have you. So obviously you should pick the best carrier for your market, or obviously pick the phone that you want, and then hope that your carrier delivers decent coverage in your area. Usually how it works, a lot of people choose the carrier first, and that's probably the case with US Cellular. I know a lot of people that I know personally, friends and family, do have US Cellular because it does have pretty good coverage here in the Midwest, especially where there's not as many people as probably in other places such as Los Angeles or New York or Chicago, Minneapolis, cities like that. So obviously they're more of a regional carrier, like I just said, so they're more prevalent here in the Midwest. But anyways, why am I making this video? Well, US Cellular made some statements about the iPhone that I found really daunting, I mean, to say the least. Let me just read you a little segment from this article right here. I'll also put a link in the description if you guys want to read it for yourself. But this comes from their CEO, Ted Carlson. And he says, "We've never really said never about the iPhone. The iPhone for us just needs to be the cutting edge of where we're going. And then there might be an opportunity to consider it. US Cellular reviewed last month that they had the opportunity to sell the current iPhone, like I just brought up, the non-LTE iteration of the iPhone, which is the current one, which is right here, which I have, the 4S. And he pretty much says, we decided against it because it was not the right economic fit for us, and it was not LTE based, basically. Now, I don't know if you guys know about US Cellular. You can go to their website, uscellular.com, and check out their site for more information. But if you look at them, they are pretty much, like I said, they're a regional carrier, but they're also a budget carrier, which means that they do not offer the top tier phones. Usually a lot of their phones are 3 to 4 months at least, behind the current iteration of the phone that may be on Sprint or Verizon or something like that, and then may have a little bit of a tweaked name to it. So they're basically offering a phone that was brought out 4 months ago as their current, top of the line smartphone, which kind of proves why they're a regional carrier. But to make statements like this, pretty much, and I was reading some of the comments, and you guys can read it as well, that it really is, and this almost makes me lose a little bit more respect for them, as a whole, because it's kind of like what Verizon was doing when AT&T only had the iPhone and Verizon wanted the iPhone. But Verizon never came out and said, we don't need the iPhone, we don't need this, we don't need that. I mean, heck, what was it, just last year, they were pretty much saying, if Apple would give us the opportunity to sell, we would sell it, and obviously they were doing everything else for business tactics because AT&T was the only one in the States here that could only get the iPhone because it was, locked into their, deal with Apple until early this year when Verizon then got it, and now Sprint has it, of course, on their network as well. So when they make, a mark like this, that they want the iPhone, but that they're probably not going to get it, and they don't want to spend that much money because a lot of the phones that they do have are discounted prices, and that's why they sell them for 3 to 4 months after they've already been released, so they can get a discount from the OEM, so that they can sell cheaper phones at cheaper rates and stuff like that. So a more regional, like I said, like for the third time, a more regional based carrier method. But for them to come out here and make these statements that it's not current enough or it's not the cutting edge to consider, I think it's just played out, bashing every other carrier in the nation, because basically all the national carriers have it besides US Cellular, and US Cellular is one of the biggest regional carriers in the country here in the US. and they pretty much don't want to shell out the money for the iPhone. They're basically saying, hey, we want Apple to offer it at a discount because we're a regional carrier. We're not the big guys. We don't have all this market, we don't have all this stuff. And I think that's not how Apple's going to do business. They're going to say, we're offering it to everybody else at this price. You can have it for that price as well. And they know that it's going to be a hit on their network. Whether their network can handle it or not, even though I'm from the Midwest and it's a huge, thing around here, I don't even know if they can handle it. There's places where a lot of people can get coverage on their US Cellular phone, and I can barely get a bar or so on my Verizon phone, believe it or not. Even though Verizon is the nation's largest network, at least the largest voice and data network here in the US on CDMA and EVD or Reve, their network. But what do you guys think about this? And do you also have US Cellular where you live? I don't know if too many people that may live in Wisconsin here where I am, but it would be good to hear from you guys here if you've ever heard of US Cellular, or if you've heard about their coverage or anything. They have great customer service. They're kind of like Apple. They have really good customer service. They have some of the best coverage in the country in the regional markets that they're in. But the problem is that they're only a regional carrier. They're not a national carrier. So let me know what you guys think. Leave some comments below. Let me know. Do you think that they are bitter jealous? I personally think they are, and it makes me lose a little bit more respect when they go on and bash it and say it's not the cutting edge thing, when Apple's the most successful phone seller in the past month and a half since the iPhone's been out. For God's sake, it's ridiculous. So, but anyways, leave me your comments, and also feel free to rate, comment, and subscribe if you would like. I would love to hear from you. Also subscribe. That's awesome, because it also helps me out, and it helps me bring great content to you guys. But anyway, guys, I'll see you in my next video. It's late. I need some more sleep. It's been a crazy 3 days at work. But anyways, guys, I'll see you in my next video. Have a good one till then. Bye.